These are one of the many pieces of gym equipment that claims to turn your home gym squat rack into a commercial gym machine. But this is one of the few machines that actually does it. Kinda. These are the RVL Strength Wings, and this is my review. These are designed to be the most complete and the end-game lever arm, jammer arm system. Now, I've reviewed nearly every jammer arm on the market, everything from really budget all the way to really high end. And I will say, I don't want to bury the lead because I have a lot of things on these I'm going to talk about. These are one of the best, if not the best adaptation of a lever arm currently available. Now, they're certainly not perfect, and there's certainly things that I'm gonna give some harsh critiques on, but there are some features on this that really turn a lever arm that most people just sit on the rack into an actual machine that you wanna use and feel like a machine. Now, what makes these stand out amongst most of these lever arms is three different features. First is the fact that it is a mobile lever arm that moves both forward and back. So most lever arms sit on the upright and they just sit down. They're adjustable, but they're adjustable in one axis, and that is going up and down on the upright. So the first ones that came out were the Sorinex adjustable jammer arms. Everybody's like, oh, that's so cool, because they saw a lot of potential in them. The problem is, for a home gym owner or for somebody that wants to have commercial type experience of hammer strength gym machines in their rack, they didn't really quite meet that. They were made for the university market and they were made for more dynamic movements. And we thought, Rogue Fitness entering the market with L2 150 cal trolley arms, that suddenly we'd be able to have all this new stuff with them. They even teased a monolift squat, a bar attachment, all sorts of things for this new platform. But then the reality came and it just didn't really pan out. One invention that came out was the Vendetta plates that strapped on somewhere like this and allowed you to have pins so you could put them at different increments so you could change the strength load, and then you could use them also without hoisting them up every time you wanted to use them. But you still have the problem of only being able to use them for pressing movements. Whereas this one, suddenly, due to this mobile arm, gives you a fulcrum on which you can place weight on the back or weight on the front. Therefore, you can use it for pressing if you put weight on the front, or if you put weight on the back. Suddenly, you can use them for pulling movements, vertical pulling movements, so lat pulls facing in or facing out, basically what you can do with a hammer strength machine. The second feature that makes these stand out is that instead of sitting on the uprights, they sit to the inside of the uprights. The reason that matters is because the outside to outside of uprights is not based on any machine or any body type, it's based on the barbell. It was not initially designed for attachments. So this rack is a Rogue width rack, 49 inches. 49 inches on a press with arms does not feel great. So now when I want to do pressing movements or pulling movements, I'm suddenly where I want to be. But the other feature that they have on this that is pretty unique, and the third thing that kind of makes these stand out, is the ability to rotate these side to side. So suddenly you have two axes on which you're adjusting. You have both the vertical axis, but you also have the side to side, or the X and Y. So this gives you the ability to adjust to body types and also allows you to use it in more of a free range motion. This is actually the part that I have the most critique on, which I'll talk about in a moment. But before I get into further my opinions, let's rewind and I'll show you unboxing them. Okay, they're assembled. Honestly, a pretty easy assembly, not too bad. I will say, whoever is making this product, they know what they're doing. This is not their first time. You can tell by the packaging, the fit and finish, the assembly, the instructions. It's just a lot more dialed for the first gen than I expected. Overall, the assembly and everything was really nice. The only thing I'd say is I didn't realize you could take off this side panel so you don't have to take your rack apart. Very nice. Now I've talked about what these are for. Let me go through the movements and what I think about each of them. Now, one of the most unique orientations you can do on this is a lat pull down. You can't do lat pull downs on a typical jammer arm because there's no lever. You can't put weight off the back side. That's one of the things that's unique about this. This is how I have it set up for lat pull downs. I have the multi-use roller from Rogue here. I'm facing this way. You can do it from either way. Just depends on what you want to hit. But this is kind of how it looks in this orientation. One thing is, because of the lever arm length, And because you have to have it kind of further off the rack in the front, it can make it just a little bit tough on the range of motion because you're coming down, arcing, and then back in. Whereas typically on a lat pull down, I'm gonna wanna go here, back. So it does feel a little bit weird there. But if I face the other way, I'm going right around here. So this is a variation that is nice, but I don't have anything to keep my legs down. And because I'm facing this way, I can't use the multi-use roller. So I'm kind of stuck doing this, but I will say this feels pretty good, and you can make even more adjustments to make it feel even better. All right, now let me show you what it looks like switching from a lat pull down, which I have now, into a bench press. Okay, we're set up. If you're a ROM monster and you like to get a lot of depth, you just kind of got to play with these because I haven't thought of a way yet other than just putting some piece of plastic or something in between the pin and the arm so I can get this a little bit higher up to start my rep. So that's where it sits straight on. If I'm like, man, I want a little bit more width, which is what I'd like, the next widest one is there and here. And now it's like a little too wide. And the other thing is the press, it presses kind of out, doesn't converge. So it's just not ideal for a press. Now, one of the unique things about this, which for me, it's like, I'd rather just use dumbbells. They're now free swivel, which it's a pretty cool party trick, but I can start wide, come in, first start of my movement, now press, and I could even do somewhat of a fly motion. There. Now one movement I've liked on this is chest supported rows. So then here's chest supported row. Now another movement that are popular with lever arms and you can do with these is just a simple deadlift. You can decide though the strength curve. So you can have it heaviest at the bottom or heaviest at the top. Right now I have it basically heaviest at the top. So it's lighter at your start point and then up, it gets heavier. So you can do RDLs, Bulgarian split squats. If you wanted to put your leg up, lunges, shrugs, and just simple deadlifts. And you can have it free floating or have it dead set on. But again, just to show you kind of the width thing, this is basically where they hit me. They're right outside my legs. So I can do it, but somebody that may have bigger legs than me, like, well, 0.001% of the population may have issues. This is a first gen product from a new company. Generally when that happens, I'm really skeptical, but I will say for a first gen product, this is actually pretty well done. They've obviously watched reviews or tried to figure out how to make this easier for users. So there's laser cut numbers here. There's numbers on the top for adjusting this. There's numbers on the side. There's handles so you can go up and down with it. I think the 47-inch length is pretty good, although there are some movements that I would like a longer lever. So it may be interesting if they just sell in the future different lengths of cross members because these handles can come all the way off. Now that is actually one of the other unique features is the fact that it has a fully modular handle and weight plate system. It's using plastic on the inside so it can basically slide. There's no rollers or anything. One of the problems with that is it's not as smooth, but this goes on the cross member and then has 3 hex ports on each side. And there's one for the front and one for the back. So you can decide where to put handles and where to put weight plate holders. The reason this matters is because on a rack, there's some movements where if it was just on this side and you put plates on, the plates might run into the upright when you're using it. So for some movements, you move it to the inside. For some movements, you move it to the top. This gives you modularity and adjustability, but one of the things I would note on this is, one, I would love it to have a standoff. So you pull this down and it stays down until you put it on. That way you could just leave it down when you're not using it, and you could put it on with one hand and then lock it in. They're not the first one to use a system like this. It's used on pressure washers or air compressors. The other thing is I would love there to be a red ring so I knew if it wasn't closed, kind of like a safety. When you put this on, you would see the red ring if it's not locked on, and if it is locked on, then you don't see it anymore. Just to show you an example, this is a monopod I have from iFootage. This is the exact thing I do. Now it's locked. I'd put a red ring around this so you knew. The one thing I would like about something like this is for it to go down and lock, so I knew it was locked, and then also have the red ring so I knew it was locked in. That matters because you do not want this to be kind of on there like it is there. You put weight on and then you realize, oh shoot, and it falls off. There are 4 different types of handles. These are the deluxe handle. These go on just right there. You could technically put them on top. You could put them on this side. You could put them on that side because they all fit modularly. I will say of all the handles that are available, these ones, although offer the most versatility, are the worst. So when I press, sometimes it'll get down like this or back like this, and that's very annoying. The handles I found I use the most are actually these handles, because these can basically do what this straight handle does. So if I want to use it just for normal grip pressing, or I want to use it for neutral grip, I can use it for both. There's nothing spinning. The knurling on them, which by the way, they sent me, I think 3 different types of knurling. The ones I would recommend, the knurling is actually on this handle right here. This is the best knurling of the options that they have. But the other handle that's really nice, and these should look pretty familiar. These are the rotating handle. They're very well made, although aren't quite as well made as the Rohrmann Strength handles. It would actually be cool to see like a collab for Rohrmann Strength to make some that fit for these arms, because they're very nice handles. But these are the straight handle, which you want just a utility player. These are a nice utility player, they work. Now there's 2 major critiques I have with this, and they kind of go together. One of those is the actual width of the arms. This is a 49-inch width rack, which a lot of people will have, but many of you will also have 47-inch. Some of you may have 48 inches. This is the widest, basically anybody will have it on a rack, and some people will have even closer. And the problem with that is this width right here is actually in some cases too close. For example, on Viking press, when I want to use these for Viking press, this is actually too close. So one thing I've done is, instead of using these, that's when I use the straight handles, which is like, okay, but then you don't have the functionality of the nicer handles, which I would want to use, which would be more like this handle. But then you're like, okay, Coop, big deal. Doesn't it have the ability to adjust side to side? Well, yes, it does. But this is the second biggest critique. I can pull this pin and suddenly I have free floating, which is more like a dumbbell. But if I'm wanting to replace machines, I don't want all that movement. I want it to be locked into a fixed path. That's more hypertrophy focused. Most of the time, I'm gonna use it fixed in. But you're like, okay, well then why don't you just go a little bit wider? So this is the straight on. Now, if you look up here, the distance between this hole and this hole is really close. You're like, wow, that's so close. The problem comes when you have a really long lever. Suddenly, that 1/2 inch right here becomes really wide at the end of this lever. So when I go from 3 to the next closest distance, which is 2, it's now suddenly way out here. So when I pull this one out to the same width, it just feels a little too wide. Where I want to be more in here, and I just can't get there with the adjustments that are here. And then this is the one that's straight on. I'm just a little too tight. I want in between. Now, just to show you what I'm talking about with the side to side of adjustment, this pin comes out. You don't want to lose that. It's one of the annoying things. You want to make sure you don't lose that. So they've got a spot here where you can put it when you're not using it, or when you've got it in free motion. But then you have these options. So this 3 is the straight on option. And then if you want to go a little bit outside, wide, 2. For most things, the 2 is already too wide for me. Whereas I just want a very minute movement. So these almost need to be like a snowman of some sort so I can fit them in, or they've got this plate underneath. It only has 1 hole for inserting this. It needs to have more holes underneath as well. Then I could have more fine adjustment. I certainly don't think this ruins the product or anything like that. If I was going to change one thing, that would be it. But there's another change that I would recommend to make these even better. One of the things you do when you're using machines and the way that they're designed is they're angled in or they're angled out. The reason for that is either convergence or divergence. So for instance, if I'm doing a lat pull, I want to come here and out for the stretch. Or if I'm pressing, oftentimes I want to come here and then come in. But this offers straight up and down every way, including the ways on the angles. So if I go out here, it's not like I'm going out wide and then coming in. I'm going out wide and I'm staying out wide. So because of that, I just think another way to make these the ultimate jammer arm platform is to allow rotation on the arm or on the trolley so that it curved in or curved out. Suddenly you have this complete system that can also converge and diverge. And that would be incredible.
Now, one thing that they have done that is nice are these hole numbers here. So they did add all these holes. I like that they put the numbers here, but the problem is these are just like screen printed on. This one's already kind of like wearing a little bit. They should either laser cut those or make them more permanent. The other thing is the logo. If you're really proud of your brand, what do you see on high-end cars? They're permanent badges. I'd love something that's laser cut or a badge or something. Now there are some really nice details on this. One of those is these pop pins. This is one of the only items on this entire piece that is plastic. Everything else is metal. An anodized red aluminum I think would have been a better choice and a more durable choice.
Now one thing that is an important factor is storage. How do you get these out of the way? Because most people are going to be having this on either a 4-post or 6-post rack. I don't have a perfect solution for that yet. You can't fold them all the way down, and the highest that you can store them is basically parallel. There isn't a storage option that I've been able to find with the arms all the way out that allows me to use these holes here. So I'm trying to figure out how do I store them. Right now, the way I store them is I basically take this, put it as high up as it'll go, try to make it so I don't hit my head on it. That is something that definitely needs to be considered more. The primary recommendation I would give is this is mainly for movements that you would do with a lever arm with the ability, if you'd like, to do this feature. But I'm not fully sold on the lever feature with the weight off the back at its current length. What may be better is for them to come out with accessories like a leg holder that juts out further from the rack and then locks my legs in. So then you have the question, well, Coop, do you recommend these? Who do you recommend them to? How much do they cost? And how do they stack up against all the other competition? So these were initially offered on Kickstarter at a price of, I believe, around $2,500. They offered them there, and then after they sold a certain amount of units, they decided to discount the price, $500, and so I believe they're $2,000 shipped to your door, and you can order them either through Kickstarter or directly through RVL Strength, which will put a link in the bio. We are an affiliate, by the way. It will go to support us, but if you just want to buy it on your own, don't want to support us, like, make your decision. But $2,000 for a jammer arm, for a lot of people, is actually more than they spend on their rack. And so I would probably not recommend these over, say, a functional trainer. I think an all-in-one functional trainer rack is a better use of your money, and these will not work on a lot of racks with cables because you're gonna have cables that come down the back. Some you may have come off the side, some you may have come off the front. The cable routing is different with all racks, so this may not work if you have a functional trainer rack, and I like a functional trainer rack and the capabilities that they have better than I like these lever arms. So as much as I like this idea, I like the invention, and I'm still trying to decide, will I keep my quantum free trainer arms, which I have in my rack over there, like my Frankenstein rack, or will I use these instead? I haven't decided yet. These can do a lot of what those do, but those can do some things that these don't do. I haven't fully decided. Honestly, it'll be months before I decide which one I'm going to keep full time. Right now I'm going to use both. I do like them, and I do plan to still use them. They're just not fully baked out yet. I think they need some working on the price and also working on the movements, lever arm lengths, and everything like that for me to give like a full recommendation. All right, let me know what you think of the arms. If you have any questions on any of them, let me know in the comments. If you want to see these in comparison to some other machines, let me know in the comments. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.